This is Gina Costigan, and welcome to 50 and Fabulous, what you've learned through the trenches, and sponsored by Main Street Mortgage. I'm here today to bring on one of my friends that I've met through a couple of our networking groups that we were just discussing, Miss Suzanne Altman.
Hi.
Hello, and Suzanne, how's it? Nice to be here. Thank you for coming on today.
Thank you.
It was quite an effort to get us both together at the same time, same place. I mean, we could have done the podcast on a roof or something, but to get us together at the same time, same place with all of our crazy schedules.
I know.
You work like a crazy person, so I'm just honored and happy to have you on today. I really appreciate you making the time to be on the podcast and share some of your stories and everything that you've done through your journey of singing and working and where you're at now. I'm fascinated by it. I was fascinated when I first met you, and then God! And I heard you sing, and you saw me at a day when I was kind of traumatized. So we'll circle back to some of that. And I know you just celebrated your 29th anniversary with your husband, Marty.
Yeah,
that's something to be totally proud of because 29 years. I'm impressed. Where did you guys meet?
We met through work. Yeah, in the insurance business.
Oh, that's right. He's an adjuster, right?
He's an independent adjuster for the policyholder.
Okay. Well, that makes sense. You work a lot.
Opposite sides of the fence.
Right. Okay. And you have 3 boys. You have one that's 22, and then you have twin boys.
Yeah.
So what are their names?
The twins are Hayden and Heath, twin redheads.
Oh, how cute.
And the oldest is Ashton.
Now, are they off now to school, or are they home still?
So my oldest just graduated from the business school with a business law degree from ASU.
Well, that's cool.
Getting ready to study for his LSAT and hopefully go to law school. My other 2 were going to Pierce.
Okay.
And don't know if they're going to go back or if they might segue and go to trade school.
Trade school. So, I always tell my girls, trade school, working full-time, or you're in school. Those are your 3 options.
Exactly. That's me. That's our 3 options too.
So it looks like, okay, I knew you're from Europe. So you were from the UK and you moved to the United States when you were 12. So what was the reason and what was the journey and how did that all come about?
Long story short, we originally moved from England at 8 to Canada because my dad thought we'd have a better life. But then we went back and forth for a couple of years and then ended up back in London. And I think that my dad just felt like there would be more opportunity here in the US. And so we emigrated here, and he was sponsored by an insurance. He was in insurance there. So he was sponsored by somebody to come here. And actually worked for the company that my husband actually works for today. I
remember you saying that.
He just thought we'd have a better life. So we moved here at 12, and my father started there, then opened his own firm.
So you guys have really just kind of been like me.
Grew up in it.
I mean, I knew what a credit report was when I was like 15.
Yeah.
Never thought I'd be doing it, but.
And we all started working a lot younger then, unlike our kids.
No, I think that you're right. I mean, during the summer, I had to work my sister and I both did. We'd go work in my dad's offices, and we're from a small town in California called Gilroy. Oh. And so, we'd be working in the offices where our friends were up at the beach having fun, but we had to work, I think, 3 days a week. We had to pay half our car insurance, but it was, now I look back, I made my daughters do the same thing. It was a responsibility. No matter what you can afford or what you can't afford, you have to teach your kids responsibilities.
100%. Yeah.
And it works, they
they
have to understand that money does not grow on trees. Sometimes I think my youngest one did think it grew on trees. But another thing I learned, I think reading through this morning and a little bit last night, you had a huge career in music, and that was your first passion. So
I don't know if it was huge.
Really, I'm from this, I'm like, this is so cool. I didn't even know you could sing until you got up and sang happy birthday at one of our events, the Women's Professional Forum. And I'm like, wow, she can even sing too. But so what changed, from insurance, that you knew insurance, to your singing, what led you into the music industry? I'll start with that.
I always really wanted to be a singer, even when I lived in England. I performed at what's called the Drury Lane Theater, which was a very well-known little theater there. I think it was the Ugly Duckling was the first song. There once was an Ugly Duckling. When I moved here, I really, USA. Like, I really wanted to be a singer. I thought I was going to be famous,
Right. The land of opportunity.
I had huge dreams. Thought I was going to be a star.
Star.
It went through a lot in my younger years, a lot of mistakes, learned lessons like
we all do.
I had left the insurance industry and was working in the charity field for a little while, and then my dad gave me the opportunity to go to music school. So I really wanted to do music, so I went to music school.
And you pursued that.
And I pursued that for a while. And then afterwards, I really tried hard. I wrote a lot of songs.
That's what you said.
I did a lot of showcases. I performed with, numerous well-known people and had the opportunity to sing in a lot of different things. But back then it was very different. It was all about looks and weight and who you knew. And I kept doing it for a very long time, even after I got married. But then I began with a family and my priorities changed.
Right. Sometimes that living that dream and
I
our
think,
reality changes.
And I wanted to keep it up, but I think it just slowly dissipated and work balance, life, family became.
And that's how you kind of chose your next career because you had your 3 children, you were very active. And then you decided you were going to open an indoor play and party space. That is, I mean, I used to take my girls to those. You had a lot of patience.
I was working for my father at the time.
Right.
My son was only almost 2. He got sick at an indoor playground.
I think you told me this.
And being the kind of person that I am,
you worried.
And just entrepreneurial, I thought, I'll just open my own.
Yeah. He's not going to get sick there. We're going to have kids.
We're going to have a place that's really clean.
Yeah. He's not going to get sick there.
And then I owned it for like the next 15 years.
That's so funny because that's how I felt about my mother-in-law having the daycare. Even though it was my mother-in-law was the daycare, I mean, I can't tell you how many kids came in and out of there. I still see people that say, oh, your mother-in-law watched my daughter or watched my son. They all had little shirts, Costigan daycare. So it started like seeing 3 people or 4 kids, I thought, to like a huge, it was their second career. But, I always thought the same thing. Oh, they're fine at grandma's. They put them when they were sick in the back room with great grandma. Right. But the germs, it was just in my head though, knowing.
And nowadays, or not nowadays, then,
there was
you could go to a daycare, you could have a cold, you could put them,
Yeah, it was different.
Right.
It was different. Now, because of COVID, they come with masks, these little children. Yeah. So now, having your indoor playground or having that career would have been different too. If you would have done, because you did it, you sold it right
1
before.
month before COVID.
That's crazy. And how many, did you do all this through your Mommy and Me groups, or how did you get all the kids to come, and how many kids did you have?
So, oh my gosh. So Monday through Friday, we were open play from 9 to 6.
So that means you had your kids too with you from 9 to 6?
No, not in the beginning.
I'm
sometimes,
like, that's a
but
lot
not
of
really.
work.
I had help.
Yeah.
And then on weekends, we did 6 parties a weekend. I had 6 staff at a certain point. Not 3 here, then 4, then
right.
And I worked mostly. I ran the business.
Right.
So
you weren't
I was
so much
there
in the business anymore. You're running it.
So I was there some days. People would see me, and I was there some parties. But most of the time, I was running it and I was setting it up because some people want to do little events, and some people want get celebrities or stuff doing parties. They want to do like big
ones. Now, where was this at?
Sherman Oaks. I started off of Van Nuys and Addison for the first couple of years, and then I moved to Beverly Glen and Ventura.
So you had some big parties in there.
We had a lot of big parties, and we only did 5, 6, and under, so it was just for the little guys.
Wow, how fun though! So, that's a lot of work.
It was great, but but once my kids got older, and I just wasn't feeling it anymore. And honestly, I didn't even know I was, through the grace of God, able to sell it. I had made my money back. Whatever time's over, I was done. I was ready to just walk away and close.
And so when you sold it, you think about selling this 1 month before the world shuts down, right? Mm-hmm. Who would think that you got out in just that? Because you probably would have had a really hard time, even though you made your money over. You still wanted you sold your equipment, I'm sure, everything in there, right?
Our lease was up. The new person was supposed to sign a new lease.
So sad though for that person.
So we were like, the timing, and they were a client, so they had seen me over the years, so they knew the business, and I was going to stay on and help them build it. Even after COVID, we thought, but it just wasn't. By then, I think he'd lost the passion to do it,
right.
And it was just, it'd been years, right? A couple of years.
So do you know if now is it back up and running or no?
No, he never reopened.
So he didn't reopen.
He did not. Other playrooms have opened since, but he did not reopen.
It's probably a whole new book of business and rules and regulations.
Everything.
It's not as fun, I'm sure, anymore.
No,
Because
no,
everything,
yeah.
I mean, our world changed. If someone would have
Yeah.
told you today what was going to happen, I always say to myself, you would have told them, you're freaking nuts. I mean, that was just nuts. I remember, I'll never forget, I was sitting, we had a different office. So we've been in this one since we moved in here during COVID. Once it opened up for a hot minute before we shut down again. So we moved in this office, but we had two separate offices. I was down this hall, John was down that hall. And I remember hearing someone came in my office and said, the NBA they stopped. They're not going to be playing basketball. I'm like, why? Why would the NBA stop? They're like, because of this COVID thing. And somebody like Tom Hanks,
foreign, right.
Tom Hanks and his wife had it. And then
that's right.
They were the first. And
right.
I'm thinking, oh my God, they're going to die. That was, and then someone came in and said, well, the NBA shut down. I said, I went in and told John, we're done. The NBA's not playing. You want to buy some computers for us all? And within a week, we had bought everybody computers. We'd set everybody, it was like, bam, we had to come. We didn't work remote at all. I mean, I have always had my phone where everything was on my phone, but we weren't set up like that. We used a laptop, but nothing like we are now. So that was the good part about it, to where now, we can work kind of good. We can work from anywhere, but I mean, at least we all are set up at home just in case. But that was a whole learning curve, I think, for everybody.
Definitely. I mean, yeah.
So when you
the unexpected is really the unexpected.
Yeah, and that is truth. So you stopped that. So when were you able to start? So did someone just approach you about this? Because I know you bought an insurance. So now we're going to go into your insurance.
Even buy and so I sold that, and then
you went into.
I used to consult all the time. So I'd done some stuff intermittently. I used to consult and help. I did a lot of marketing when I was younger, and so I used to consult and help other people start and open their businesses. So I always did that on the side.
Okay.
So but it was never something that I wanted to do as a job. I enjoyed it.
Maybe fun for you.
I enjoyed it because it was a fun thing to do, and I just did it sometimes.
Right.
You're opening a yoga studio. Great. Let's put together your 3-year operating budget. What's it going to cost? What's it going to do? What's the breakdown? What are you going to spend? What do you need to make? Do it. And now, we set you up to open.
That was your kind of your passion. You liked
I loved it. Yeah, absolutely. But I couldn't have done it all the time. I would have lost it. My husband, because he had to work all through COVID, because he still had to go out. He was like one of those people, like the firemen, and they still had to go to people's homes.
Life still did happen.
And he had to go out. He was one of those essential workers and he would come home all the time, and he'd say something like, somebody had a fire.
You said this the other day.
And I'd be like, oh, so great. Were you able to help them? No, they had they had no coverage, or
I hear that too.
They had no coverage, or their agent wrote them a really bad policy. They didn't have enough. And I'm like, okay, what? We pay so much money. I was so frustrated. Like every time he came home and he would tell me, it would upset me more and more, because I knew what we paid for insurance too. So finally I said to him, I don't know what I should do. And there's not a lot of public adjusting firms, independent adjusters, and I wasn't going to go work against him. Right. To go back. And I was a controller anyway. I wasn't adjusting the claims. And so he was like, maybe started as a joke. Maybe you should open your own farmer's agency. I'm like, that sounds like a really good idea. Maybe. I mean, or go independent. And I'm like, I don't know if I want an independent business again. If nobody
it's a lot of work.
Talk to, bounce off ideas from, it was just me. So he said, just look into it. Farmers is really good with claims.
Mm-hmm.
My girlfriend had gotten a call, from a recruiter,
right?
A farmer's recruiter, saying, we're looking for people that want to open agencies. And I must have mentioned it. And she said, look, I'm not interested, but I might know someone who is.
Okay. Interesting.
And I think at that point, by the time they called me, I had already kind of made up my mind.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, I don't want to buy a book.
I was just going to say, did you buy the book of business? So you started all this. Oh my gosh.
I said, I don't want to buy somebody else's book. I don't know what's good,
bad,
otherwise.
I knew. Well, I have a very good friend of mine that did work with farmers. She was a hardest worker, mover and shaker. She's very high up now with paychecks. She did not buy a book, and it was really hard.
It was really hard, and it was COVID. So I started at my kitchen table, and I bought a couple leads. Look, luckily, as you said, I grew up in the insurance industry. Being in an indoor playground, all of those Facebook groups that I was on, all those moms groups, I never took myself off of them.
So I'm on a lot still now.
50 or 60.
Yeah. Well, you told me that the other day. So the one you told me, I'm like, all right, I might as well join this one. Somebody actually said, how many groups are you involved in? I'm like,
I have no idea.
I have no clue. Don't ask.
You don't. It
But
doesn't.
I learn a lot sometimes from each one of
Sometimes,
them.
yeah. And it usually, when I'm texting you at 11 o'clock at night,
Yeah.
but
And I really was awake last night, but I'm like, I know we'll start going back and forth, and I really got to go to sleep.
because I can't do that during the day. Like
Right.
I don't.
No,
So
you
that's
don't.
anyway. So they
You
called, and there was some qualifications. Money, this, that. They want to make sure that you're set up to run a business if you're going to do it without.
So did you get all your licenses obviously prior to all that, or how does it work with farmers?
Once I started talking to them, they said, okay, you need to get licensed because I had a public adjuster's license, but nothing else.
Right.
So, I took my hours. You have to take your ethics, your P&C. You do your life and health, even though I'll never sell health. So
funny because I did the same thing. I worked for Beneficial, and I had to sell on our loans. We sold life, disability. I had to get licensed for property and casualty, and I'm so mad at myself. I let them all go. And it was hard to pass those tests, but I had all those licenses. I don't know what I could have done with them, but
right, because you got to do your CE.
Well, I had to have them. Right, I had to do all those classes because we sold the product back in the day with the loans. I mean, those classes take time too.
They do. So I have somebody training right now to take their test, and I said to them, just take your hours. The test, you're just studying to pass the test. The learning starts.
Right.
After.
That's with everything.
After.
Too. Right.
It's after. Everything. You're not learning from the
test.
Just
learn from go to the crash course, learn what they tell you that's on
pass the test, and then we'll teach you.
And then that's how you, because that's how you learn the real materials.
Right.
A couple questions we have for you here on the podcast. Were there a pivotal moment that shaped you for your passion in singing? And would any of your singing kind of correlate with what you do now?
Wow, that's a really interesting question. Music school was very competitive.
Well, that's what you said. Like when you came here, it was like, I can see coming to LA.
So, coming to LA was a big change. As you see, I don't have an accent. So kids can be, even though they mean to be nice when they make fun of your accent.
I think you have an accent.
Oh, do you? Okay.
I think you and Neil both do.
People think I'm from New York, not London.
Oh, I hear both. I can hear both a little bit.
So,
because I like it.
People always say to me, oh, you've lost your accent. But, kids can be mean. You want to fit in. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if you meld or mold or lean, change a little bit just to be part of. Mm-hmm. So I think that music school helped shape me in that way because I learned how it's a really competitive, rough, shark eat shark world, unfortunately. Right. Not everybody wants to be nice and do you a favor. Yeah. You want to believe that everybody's there to be your friend and all, but it's just not.
It's a tough business. Well, any business is tough, but I think the movie industry. I think that
I learned the hard way because I was an innocent,
young person from Europe, from England. Right.
I thought everybody was there to be my friend, and learned that wasn't true. But at the same time, I think going from music school to what I am now. I tell other people when I mentor people or people come to me, the most important lesson that I learned was be true to yourself.
Yeah.
It's really easy to say now.
Right.
I didn't know that then. Had I known that then, I don't, maybe I wouldn't be so who I am now, or learned humility, or I don't know,
it's growing
or made the mistakes I made to teach me the humility. But being true to yourself, because the people that are your friends or the people that want to help you will legitimately be there for you and be your friends. And the people that don't just don't matter.
Ones, right. I say the same thing. I always tell my best friend this, and she laughs. I say, I have a lot of friends, a lot of different groups of people, and friends and friends and friends. And, it's wonderful. But my little core group is this big. It's my family. That's 99.9%. And then maybe one or two best friends. No, literally.
But it is
that's my family. I have two daughters, so they're my best friends. Yeah. Now, but when they become adults and they get their brain cells back, that's when we can be best friends again. But that's my core, and then a few close people that I allow, and they allow me in their lives. That is just like family, anyways. So it's just you just find those people because you're out in the world. You're like me. You're on the phones. You're with people. You're in different groups. I mean, we're on 24/7.
100%, but I think
it's
and
hard
I feel this way with
down.
you as I am. Like people tell me, even strangers that call me, even earlier today, somebody said to me, "Thank you so much for being so transparent and honest." And I believe, unless I'm kidding myself, that I am the same way with everybody. That I am with my clients. I'm very transparent. I'm very clear. Mm-hmm. I don't.
And you'll tell people stay. That's what John.
I told people stay. I told this woman earlier, I could absolutely do something for you, but I'm not going to be able to compete. And you honestly should just stay right where you are.
You're at. Yeah.
And and if you want me to look at it and tell you what to do, I'll look at it. but stay right. You
No, I mean,
right
John and I
where
were
you
going through a loan.
are.
I think this is why, I've been here for 12 years, and this is what I always come back to. He's on the phone, and we could do a little bit better for the client. And he goes, you know what? This is not worth you doing this right now. Let's just wait a little bit, see what happens, and we'll revisit it in a month. I hear this all the time. Or we get a game plan together. We'll do this now, but in 6 months, we're going to take you out of that loan. Now that we're going to pay off all your debts, take you out of the loan and do something else for you. And we keep to that word. But that is important, that not every client that you get or call that you get, it's going to be, a potential sale. And that's what makes you different than the competition, I think, sometimes.
And it's not always about the sale. You don't know what's going to come
well, and you
from
told
a
the person,
conversation.
oh my gosh, about the
who
life
they know
insurance
everything.
story last week. And that
that
made me
really.
think, because I'm like, what do I have for my, because it's just me and I have my girls, right?
Right.
So I do have life insurance for my daughters. And I remember
That's
my
good.
person that did my insurance just recently, a couple of years, we went through and went through all my stuff. And she goes, both your daughters, they're, one's married and she does well, and the other one is in nursing school, and her fiance now, he does well. She goes, you're a really nice mom. I said, no, I'm their mom. So, I do this because it's not a ton, but at least in that moment, if something were to happen, they're not thinking about anything financial. This is just for them to have,
Well, look.
But your story,
yeah,
that was awful.
I know, but it happens to people.
Happens.
And I tell people, because they're like, well, life insurance, this, and I don't need it for that.
And he was young.
Look, life insurance doesn't take away the pain.
No.
Unfortunately, the loss.
It takes a kid.
But it allows you the time, the money that you've put away, or the money you can borrow, or if it's just a cash out.
Helps.
It allows you the money to be able to not work for a time, be able to pay this,
pay
that,
the
and
bills
while you're dealing with your grief.
Of course. I mean, that person might have been the sole income provider. You don't know. Right. So, I mean, when you said that. Or
if you own a business, that's for the same thing. If you own a business and, you have a couple partners and something happens, that key man, that one partner to another partner.
Yeah. It's
there's things to pay for.
Yeah. It's just like even long-term care. I have long-term care, and I do. And I have one of my best friends is Jackie McMahon. She's great. But anyway, she taught me a long time ago. And I've learned this too, because I have epilepsy. With long-term care, she goes, my family doesn't eat unless we pay the long-term care first. Because, I've seen what can happen with the family, and I don't want my daughters to deal with the expense. I saw it with my dad and my grandmother. Thank God he was able to help and pay for a beautiful sunrise, but assisted. But I don't want them to go through that. So maybe if it's $5 or $6 grand that they get, that will help them,
100%.
Because it could happen, with any age, but I have had this long-term care, and John helps me, and he goes, well, when does it end? I go, when I die. I told him, I'm just kidding. I said that today. We just had this conversation. He goes, does it end? I go, no, it doesn't end. I go, this is not, I had to explain. I said, but this one is long-term care. So if I'm 70 and I do have a stroke, my daughters are not going to have to worry about
you have
me
money
as
to
much.
Take care of you.
They're going to have their own kids, their own family. Someone's going to have to help me, feed me.
But most people don't prep like you thought it through, or
because I've seen firsthand.
But most people don't. It's a secondary thought. Just like, look, we never thought, like you said it earlier. Yeah. We didn't think COVID was going to happen.
No.
So.
Mm-mm. And I didn't think, because I went with one of my gals who tried to get me the long-term care a couple years back, and it was too close to the last seizure. So because I'm now 4 years, and it was 2 years though, so it had to be 24 months. And I was 24 months and 2 days, and I was on the phone, and I did get it. She even said she was shocked. But I was like, when I hit that 2 year mark, I'm like, I'm trying again, because every time that happened, I'm like, there goes my long-term care. But,
really,
it's just
smart.
Taking care of those things that you just, that's what insurance is there for, right?
You hope that you don't have a death or a fire
or a car accident.
Please God, or a car accident. When somebody says to me, well, I've never had a loss. Well, thank God.
Well, you're the lucky ones.
Right.
But you know what I didn't learn, and this is something that I did learn through my accident. I was in shock the day I told you and I saw you, because I did get hit. He did pass away, and he had a beautiful Mercedes. He was a young kid, but it was undercover. It was underinsured for sure. But I didn't know that you could actually kind of go after your own insurance. So that was a whole new thing that I didn't know about.
Well, your insurance, if you have enough insurance, your insurance covers it for people that don't have enough or uninsured motorists.
Well, it helped because I was in the hospital and all those things. But I'm at first I said, I'm suing myself. And my attorney had to kind of explain it. And I'm like, at this point, whatever you got to do to finish it out.
Yeah.
I'm done with this part of my life.
Well, that's why they just changed. It's just about to come into. They just changed minimum limits in California.
What is it? So I need to know.
It's still pretty low. So it used to be you don't have it because most people don't. 1530 was the minimum, and nobody wants to have that.
I remember.
But now the Department of Insurance just verified, because we just heard today that 3060 is going to be the minimum.
15. That's what I had before. And then I changed all mine too.
Right.
Not maybe before, but with my new car, I got better insurance too.
Right.
And
yeah,
that really, like I told you, that was like a huge setback. It was like January. I was going, New Year. I'm on my way to work out, and that didn't happen. And then it just kind of changed the whole focus of that whole year. And then, I just learned I learned that big aha moment. So what was the biggest aha moment when you realized insurance was the right career for you? I think we've kind of touched, but
it's funny. I think every day is my aha moment.
But you love what you do.
Really weird. I love it even on a bad day. A client could be calling.
You're just one of those people.
It's just weird. I know it's a little strange. I just absolutely love it. And it's not that I love selling homeowners insurance or selling your auto, but when I can be on the phone with somebody and I can review their stuff and I can make sure that they have the right coverage in case of a loss, and then we get it all done, it's this satisfaction, It's not even an aha, because it should be, there's no specific moment. Just every day feels like, this is, why wasn't I doing this sooner is my, how did I know insurance was my thing? This was my thing.
You find it. Sometimes we find things in, different phases in our life. And, I wouldn't have been ready to do Main Street Mortgage and what I'm doing here and everything that we do here and so forth 20 years ago. No way.
Right.
So we change, we grow, it just, you change as a person. So as you change as a person.
So much, I've seen devastation.
Right.
I've seen.
Well, your husband's on the other side too.
Yes, he works for the policyholder against the carrier.
Right.
So, or not against, but to put that insured's whole. But I've seen, he sent me pictures, and I've been, when I was younger, to commercial buildings that have literally blown up, and they've lost just recently. I don't write their insurance, but a friend of ours, unfortunately, as a property manager at a strip mall, and the whole building imploded. And these poor people, he was telling us the other night at dinner that these people, because it's all they have been sitting there day after day outside the business, because I think they might have, one has something in the floor and something, whatever it is, but they're scared to leave. It's all they know.
That's all they know and have. And that's their whole world.
You just think wow, and then you lose your home, or I've had a huge water loss and been out of my house, which was awful.
I've
my house didn't blow up. You know what I mean?
I've had the water loss, and recently I had a water issue, and all of it's a big pain. But if you have the proper coverage, the first thing you should think. And now it's kind of scary though, because now you're I don't want to file a claim if it's only for $3,000, because I don't want to take the chance of getting dropped.
Now they want you to take more responsibility and really utilize your insurance for what they always thought it should be for, which is the large losses.
Good.
It's all these people putting in all those small, because last year there were more water losses in California.
Of course, we had all that rain, and they're saying that again this year. We might have a lot.
But those are my aha moments, and also my ahas are it's funny when I get the pleasure to write a life policy
for a new married couple,
and somebody that just had a baby.
You said that the other day.
15 days you can write a life policy. I've written policies for young people, and you look at the growth, and now $1 million isn't going to be worth the same when they're older. But the fact that they can feed it with $100 a month and have $1 million or you're
that's crazy.
Had I known that,
right? It's like you said, the Gerber baby ones. Those
used to be $50,000, pay $25.
Well, I remember when I first had my daughter, we were on such a strict budget. Haley's 30 now, so we had everything. He got $20 for the week for food. Poor guy. He's 6'3.5". He'll probably hate me. I hated me then. But anyways, we were on such a tight. So we had the life insurance guy come over because he was adamant, and I was bawling. It was $19. I'm like, we can't afford it. There's nowhere you can't eat for the week because we can't afford it. Like I was crying. Like my dad's like, Gina, you can afford $19. Don't buy up 2 lipsticks per month. I'm like, oh, okay.
I know a list was important then.
It still is, yeah. But I remember though him having the life insurance, and my daughter's fiance to be, they became domestic partners, and because of insurance, she needed it for health insurance. And he said to me that night, I'm calling, we need life insurance too. I'm like, you're really taking on this. I'm well, good for you, buddy.
Covering all the bases.
But, it's all those cool things. So do you have any daily routines or practices that help you stay grounded and while managing all your stress, Suzanne, at work? I want to hear it if you do.
I definitely am a high stress person, and I actually work really well under stress. I had to learn, and I do too. I think that's only in the last 6 months. So I really try. I used to get up in the morning, and the first thing I used to do was grab my phone. I don't do that anymore.
Good.
So now I get up in the morning and I take 10 minutes and I breathe, kind of like set my intentions for my day, I guess, At the end of every day, I kind of clean out my list and write my list for the next day. And I think that really, if that answers your question.
Yeah, no, I think it's important.
Really helps ground me. I'm not so great yet at taking a lot of time for myself. My networking meetings are kind of a little bit of therapy.
Yeah, and like we talked about, women's where we met, that one is a really nice, beautiful luncheon where we kind of sit and we feel like we're there with a bunch of girlfriends. Yeah. It's not a hardcore networking group.
Very relaxed.
Dahlia runs a wonderful group, and I'm so glad I found it through Tracy, really, Labatt, when she was working here. And when she left, so I took over for her. And I took over for like 5 things for her. And I think that's the last one. I'm like, this is the group I really wanted to be a part of. Because you have to want to go and you want to enjoy it. So I am actually speaking on the next one. So I'm after you. I'm like, I can do what Suzanne does. Okay.
Oh, that's awesome.
You were great though. I learned though that day so many different things. So it was, it's a nice. So
that was really, it's a little nerve wracking.
Yeah, I missed Cammie, but I was glad I got to see you.
Yeah, she was wonderful. Thank you. I really appreciate it because it's it's nerve wracking. It's nerve wracking enough to stand up and do your 60-second at your groups.
Yeah.
But to get up and do, but once you start and people are whatever, it just it's
kind of telling your story. It's really telling your story and what you're all about, and that's kind of what you're doing here today. So it all kind of flows together. You're a hard worker, and I know that. You thrive off stress a little bit too. I think we both do. But I've really learned how to take some time out, meaning vacation time. If I don't take a week off or take off for 4 or 5 days, I'm like, my family's saying, when are you going? You need some time off. Are you doing that or setting some time for yourself in this? Because you're fantastic at what you do.
So I haven't been doing that. I am just starting to. My husband's actually on a vacation right now. I should be taking a vacation. He's off for 5 days of golf. So
good for Marty.
Yeah, exactly. Good for Marty. Yeah, he's off for golf. He's from Wisconsin, so he went back to play golf in Wisconsin. I'm planning it. I'm planning a girls' trip with a couple friends, and I do try to take more just me time, have a massage or whatever that I haven't been doing. So I am making a point.
You've got to do that stuff, and that's something that if I don't do it, my assistant Alani, who's in the room with us today, told me today I needed some self-care and sent me to get a smoothie because I was having a breakdown over my meeting for tomorrow, but I'm okay now.
It's important. There are days I don't leave for lunch either. Okay, so you're okay.
So
we're the same people.
It's a networking lunch. I bring my lunch every day. It's boring, the same things. Too. But today I'm like, I need a few minutes out of this office. I need to go get my smoothie, and I felt better after the smoothie. But it's just
makes a difference.
But I just needed some fresh air. I'm just like. And
sometimes
I sat
you just
down
need to take a
waiting.
walk or something, right?
Yeah, I just said I just need to take 5 minutes. Life is going to be, everything's going to be just fine. It's just in that moment, you're just you keep going. And
no, there are some days. I had a couple of those days this week where I felt like my chest was hurting. I was like, oh, I don't usually take in this stress so much. What's going on?
Yeah.
So
you need to take a vacation.
Yes.
Let me know when the girls' trip is, and
we could take another one.
Oh, that sounds good. And no, we definitely have to work together too in putting together something like we said before.
That is so crucial. I think that would be our next step. That'd be awesome.
Well, thank you for coming on today. I'm so glad we made it. I'm so glad we made this work.
Me too. I really appreciate it.
You're my late night texter. Okay, thank you, Ms. Suzanne.
Thank you so much.